Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Himanshu and I once again welcome you all to the second video of the module 1 of Advanced Marketing Orientation course. In this video, we will talk about why Titanic sank. Titanic in marketing? Oh yes, you heard it right. Let's start our discussion with why Titanic sank. Then we will also talk about Bajaj Auto, which at some point of time was a big giant in the two-wheeler segment in India, and today it has been reduced to a marginalized player. So in one way, they were like Titanic for the two-wheeler segment in India, but today their presence is merely represented by few bike models and a very small market share in this booming two-wheeler segment. So what went wrong with Titanic? What went wrong with the Titanic of the two-wheeler industry, that is Bajaj Auto? We will be discussing in this particular video. I'm sure that many of you must have watched the movie Titanic, which beautifully outlines the entire sequence through which this particular ship, which happens to be one of the world's largest ship, was made. And if we go back and think about that, this ship was made in 1912 and it had most of the security features, most of the aspects were taken into consideration, and probably in that particular time period this was a manufacturing market piece for sure. In total, this ship had the capacity to carry approximately 46,000 tons. And it had a length of around 882 feet, and this ship at its broadest or widest point was around 92 feet wide. Despite all the points taken into consideration, despite all the safety aspects taken into consideration, it was unfortunate that this ship sank on its very first visit in the month of April in 1912. Now there are various theories which led to the sinking of Titanic, and most prominent theory says that probably there was this particular ship was stuck in a region of iceberg. There was some communication gap also which happened between the ship and the port. Probably the alarming signals were not picked well within time. The rescue operations started late. The safety paraphernalia, it reached much later, which led to the sinking of this beauty on water. And it, along with that, few thousands of people, they also died. Now if we look at the business world, if we look at the business scenario, then in India you will find there are some organizations which have been successfully running for past many years. There are some organizations which are there in the corporate arena only for a small duration of time. So we need to understand that if we want to create organizations which are sustaining, which have a longer business life in the business scenario, what are certain aspects which need to be taken into consideration? So if we further move and look into a case of what we call as Mr. Rakesh business poll, or Mr. Rakesh, the story of the departmental store of Mr. Rakesh. Now, Mr. Rakesh, he always had aspirations for business, and all his business aspiration came true when he opened a 5,000 square feet departmental store to provide most of the things used by an Indian household under one roof. First year, probably he had to put in a lot of effort to put all the business operations into practice, or all the business functions into practice, right from store designing to visual merchandising, then hiring the right kind of people, training them, and trying to provide not only the products at the best possible price, but also good consumer services as well. Second and third year, his departmental store witnessed immense growth. Then all of a sudden, and this is a story which you might have seen in your surrounding, which you might have seen in your areas as well, wherever you belong, government proposed a new bypass. So now most of the consumers, they were not taking the road which was leading to this departmental store, but they were rather preferring a bypass because that is saving time for the consumers. This led to decline in the footfall for the departmental store, and for the last 2 years the store has been struggling. So what went wrong? Probably Mr. Rakesh was able to manage all the functions related to his organization, all the internal function related to his organization in a very precise manner. But this proposal of bypass was something which was beyond his control, and he struggled to respond it into a favorable manner. And this is a story which is very, very common, and that is where probably the understanding of the micro environment and the understanding of micro environment is required for successfully running this business. So Mr. Rakesh was able to manage all the elements of micro environment very well because they were in his control. But he simply failed to understand or to respond how to react to a macro environmental change, that is the proposal and the operationalization of the new bypass leading to consumer diverting away from his store. So in businesses, there will be some challenges which are well within your control. There may be some challenges which are beyond your control. And the only mantra to succeed is that you have to be very, very vigilant, you have to be proactive, and you have to respond well within time. Let's look at the story of Bajaj Auto, which I call the Titanic in the two-wheeler markets. So all of us still may have this piece of a scooter in our families as a part of heritage, because at some point of time Bajaj scooters, they were not only two-wheelers or they were not only scooters, they were a part of Indian consumers' life. They were a part of our memories. We have lived and relived many part of these memories, and I'm sure you must have seen this video, or you will be able to recall this video. Let's have a look at what this video is all about.
ये ज़मीं ये आसमां, हाँ ये ज़मीं ये आसमां, हमारा कल हमारा आज, हमारा कल हमारा आज, बुलंद भारत की बुलंद तस्वीर, हमारा बजाज बुलंद भारत की बुलंद तस्वीर, हमारा बजाज
I'm sure many of you must have recalled what this brand meant to the Indian market at some point of time during early 90s and so on. If you look at that, what was the characteristic features of Bajaj? So Bajaj started manufacturing two-wheelers in the year around say 1960s and so on. Chetak was one of the most selling brands of Bajaj, and then they were also had a manufacturing collaboration with Maharashtra Scooters Limited, and their brand was Priya. At some point of time, this Chetak and Priya, they were ruling the Indian roads, and they were becoming they gave their owners a sense of pride having a ownership of a scooter like Chetak or Priya. So in 1998, approximately scooters made up to 75% of the two-wheeler industry annual volumes, and out of which Bajaj had a market share of close to 60%. So when it comes to a scooter, you had few other brands like Vespa was there, Lambretta was there, and the most popular bikes during those time periods were Rajdoot, Yamaha, and 90s it marked the entry of Hero into the two-wheeler segment in Indian market. If you look at the current two-wheeler market in India, then this market is a very big market. This two-wheeler, it contributes to around 7% of the manufacturing GDP in India and around 2% of the GST revenues for the government. India has around 190 million two-wheelers, which is a big market, and looking at those numbers today, Bajaj must be regretting that why they were not able to keep hold of this particular market. This market is expected to grow at a rate of around say 18% CAGR, which is compounded annual growth rate. India happens to be the second largest manufacturing market in the world, and there were around 15 million units which were sold in the year 2021. This volume is expected to reach to around 42 million by the year 2027. So by any standards, two-wheeler was always a very lucrative market for any marketer. For the last say 3 or 4 decades, this market has been growing consistently at a pace of around 15 to 20% CAGR. Yes, this segment was also hit by the COVID and is yet to recover from the effects of the COVID. So if I look at in the year 2011, India was selling close to 11.7 million two-wheelers, which reached to its peak in the year 2019 when India sold around 21 million two-wheelers. For the financial year, this is for the half of the year, India has already sold 13 million two-wheeler. So you can see that there is a consistent growth trend up till the year 2019, and of course this was the time when the COVID news started spreading. So 20 and 21 were the year that largely the reason for the decline. It may be attributed to COVID. So when all the businesses were affected, two-wheelers was also not any exception, right? But still this market holds a lot of potential for the marketers in India. If you look at the current scenario, then Hero MotoCorp is the market leader, which roughly has a share of around 40%, so 39%, which is roughly 40%. And Bajaj Auto, which in 90s or till mid 90s was the market leader, is having a small share of 10%. And I hope all of you will remember that this Hero and Honda at some point of time they were together. So if I add the market share of Hero, Honda Motorcycles and Scooters India Private Limited, this is roughly close to 25%. So Hero Honda say collectively is in the current scenario what Bajaj Auto was in the 90s. So the combined market share of Hero MotoCorp and Honda Motor and Scooters India Private Limited, which is HMSI, is also close to 65%. We'll try to understand that what went wrong, as a result of which Bajaj Auto Limited from a market share of 60% came down to merely 11%, right? So, and there's something interesting to look at, that this is not something new. If you look at this is the share of the geared scooters in 1993, and you can see that this trend is declining, and this market by the year 2007 it has been reduced to say minimum, and this decline is very clearly visible even to a layman, that how the segment, how the growth of these two-wheelers scooters is being compromised, which surprises that how a big giant like Bajaj Auto, they were not able to pick this trend, right? It was evident, it was very clearly visible. 1994, Hero launched their first bike, Splendor. Then they launched the Activa in 2000, and this marked the decline of share for the geared market and increased share for the bikes and the automatic scooters. And finally, the Bajaj, they formally announced that by the somewhere around 2009 that they will formally exit this scooter market. In 2006, they announced that they will be leaving, or they will be exiting the geared scooter market. So we have to understand, and this poses some serious questions, that typically what went wrong? What went wrong with Bajaj Auto? What were the signals like Titanic which they were not able to pick, which led to the closure of a scooters division for Bajaj? Some of the factors which I have outlined include road conditions. So the road conditions at that point of time, they were not very favorable for scooters which were having a small wheelbase. When bikes were launched in India, consumers realized that bikes, they give you a more comfortable ride as compared to a scooter because of their larger wheelbase. This contributed to the popularity of bikes, and people started moving from scooters to bike. Second important factor, bikes were promising better mileage as compared to scooters. So if at that point of time a scooter was giving a mileage of around say 30 to 35 kilometers per liter, bike was giving a mileage of say close to 55 to 60 kilometers per liter. So this was found to be a more effective means of transportation for Indian consumers. And the biggest blow came when two-wheeler financing was started, and Citibank was the pioneer in India to start two-wheeler financing somewhere around mid-90s. Apart from all the advantages which bikes had over scooters, the biggest disadvantage of bikes were the high price. So if I could get the scooter in the range of in 90s or in say 1980s, you could get a scooter for around say 20,000 or 25,000. Bikes were priced at least 1.3 to 1.4 times than these scooters. At the moment this Citibank, they started the two-wheeler financing, the initial price of the product, it became redundant, and consumers were more bothered about the EMI. So this development of the financial institutions, this change in the approach of the banks, it had a very adverse impact on the growth of the scooter market in India. Another factor was bikes were more comfortable in driving. At that point of time, scooters, many a times you might have seen somebody tilting a scooter towards one side and then giving a kick to start. But bikes were more comfortable to drive. Bikes were easier to drive. Bikes were more ergonomically, they were more suited for the physical comfort, which led to their popularity. After 2000, it was witnessed that the increasing number of women in the workforce is also increasing, and for them, automatic scooters or gearless scooters, they were found to be more suited. This factor led to the development, led to the growth of automatic scooters in India. And since the consumers believe that automatic scooters are easy to learn, easy to drive as compared to geared scooters. And to me, probably the biggest blow was the emission norms. Due to pressure from the international lobby, Indian government, they also had to implement the emission norms, stringent emission norms, which later on were known as Bharat Stage norms. So now we are aware of Bharat Stage 1 norms, Bharat Stage 2 norms, Bharat Stage 4 and 5 and so on. All this started somewhere in mid-90s. And two-wheelers, since they were having a two-stroke engine, they had more issues, or they were more adversely affected by the stringent emission norms. And say for a layman, a two-stroke engine means that the fuel is combusted in two chambers, and when it is combusted in two chambers, or the fuel is burned in two chambers, it leads to lot of unburnt fuel as well, which adds to the pollution. So if it is a two-stroke engine, the engine emits high quantities of hydrocarbon, including benzene and other pollutant, and it works on a mixture of oil rather than fuel alone, and a large quantity of fuel is vented out unburnt. While if it is a four-stroke engine, this same fuel will be burnt in 4 chambers. So it will be totally burnt and lesser number of pollutant will be emitted in the environment. So these were the emission norms 1991. If you look at the emission norms, then the carbon monoxide and is 12 to 30 gram km. In 1996 was decreased to 4.5 and 3.6. And look at what happened in the year when Bharat Stage 3 norms were implemented. Something which was 12 to 30 has been reduced only to 1, and something which was 8 to 12 has been brought down to just 1. Now all the scooters which were largely using two-stroke engines, they found it difficult to comply with this norms from this point onwards. It was very difficult for them to bring down their emission or to bring down the pollutants to these lower levels. So this one macro environmental factor, why we are calling it macro environmental factor, because this is something which is beyond the control of the organization. This is something which will not only apply to Bajaj Auto, but it will apply to all the two-wheelers manufacturers in India, right? So this sharp decline in the emission norms, in the emission standards, it almost put the final nail in the coffin of Bajaj Auto, and they decided that probably they would be moving out of this particular market, from the scooter markets altogether. So Indian market has seen these kind of pictures wherein the entire family is riding on their most prized possession, which is the Bajaj scooters. From 1995 say to the next one decade, it was the era of bikes, and many marketers they venture into this category. Many marketers successfully established themselves in this category, and Hero Honda was the most or the biggest player in this particular segment. In the last 5 years or so, we have seen that now this market is moving towards the electric vehicle, and most of the organizations, whether it is Hero, whether it is TVS, whether it is Bajaj, they have either a prototype or most of them they have a ready product in this electric segment as well, which is bound or which it is believed that will drive the two-wheeler market in the next 1 decade or so. Thank you.